Alright, a little update on the 65. A few things of clarification from one of the earlier videos on it. When I bought it, I thought it was a 66, and that was just based on what the seller thought he had. And did a little research when I got home, ran the VIN number, and it is a 65. Second clarification was on the engine. I was under the impression it was a 250, and I did get it running. There's a short clip of it running. It ran horrible. Had a terrible blow-by. Wasn't smoking too bad, but the oil rings were shot, top rings were shot. Everything was coming out the valve cover. So I pulled the engine and have it disassembled, and it's in the machine shop now. I am gonna build it. It's a 230. It's been to clean it up. I've had it bored 60 thousandths over. The crank wasn't too terrible bad, considering it's 50 plus years old. Had to have the mains and rods both turned 10 thousandths, so it's still got quite a bit of meat in the lower end. But this weekend I tackled the bottom end of this thing. It was a grease mess from hell. I used some this Rust-Oleum rust dissolver, and was pleasantly surprised at how well it worked cleaning the frame up. The frame wasn't bad other than surface rust on it, and it ate that surface rust off. And then I took a wire wheel to it, cleaned it up a little bit, and shot it with some undercoat, and then followed it up. Last night it rained a little bit, so it's a little dirty now, but followed it up with flat black on the frame and all of the under components. Cleaned it up nice, just stop any future corrosion and rust issues. Did the frame down both sides, did the rear end. Thought it was a well worthwhile project to tackle. It looks nice, and I'm pleased with the way it turned out. So that's the state of the truck right now. I haven't done a whole lot else to it. A few little things, nothing major. Disassembled, took apart both doors. Got the windows to where they'll roll up and down. Inside, everything else is pretty much the same. You can see there's still daylight coming through right there. That'll be a future project to tackle. Got it on both sides. Not real concerned about that at all. It does have a little bit of rust right over top of the steering wheel here, up top of the window, which I'm sure probably started somewhere up in here. Again, not a concern that I'm worried about, but I can take you in and show you a little bit of what I've got of the engine. Like I said, the block and the heads are in at the machinist right now. For the head, I am going with, I think I want to tell you it's a 184 valve from, I think there were originally 160s or something like that. So we're upsizing the intake and exhaust valves. And here, this is the engine building cave. A few components, motor mounts that I cleaned up yesterday. Those are the exhaust and intake hold down clamps, and there's bolts and nuts for oil pan and exhaust and intake. Going to go with a set of long tube Hedman headers on it. Hopefully help get that exhaust out. This was the original intake and exhaust. One barrel carb, and I am going to go with this guy, Offenhauser 4-barrel. I've got a 4-barrel carb I'm going to try sticking on it. It's like a 600 CFM. It may be too much for it, but I'm going to get it on it and at least do the test run and initial work with it and see how it works. If not, I'll downsize it because it very well could be too big. But just other miscellaneous stuff I've been cleaning up. Water neck, cleaned up the starter, side covers, new set of push rods to go in it. Let's see, we've got the timing cover here. New water pump, cleaned up the pulley. I got to do the harmonic balancer yet. But yeah, new water pump gonna go on it. Some more of the exhaust pieces here. So that's kind of the state of the 65. Like I said, I wanted to clarify a few things on it. Number one, it's not a 66, it's a 65. And then further, the 250 motor is a 230. Interestingly enough, didn't really find that out because everything on the internals is pretty much exactly the same between the 250 and the 230 except the crank, and I believe the compression height on the pistons is a little bit shorter, or maybe it's longer on the shorter on the 230. Didn't really know that because when I took the crank out and took it into the machine shop, the crank had no casting numbers on it, so the machinist couldn't identify it immediately off of that, and it wasn't until I brought my pistons and rods in about a week and a half later that he told me those are 283 pistons, so that's not a 250. That would be a 230. The 283s and the 230 shared the same bore and compression height, while the 250 shared a bore, which the bore on the 230 and the 250 is the same. It's all about compression height and crank throw. Interestingly enough, the 250 has the same compression height as a 307. So I initially ordered a set of 307 pistons and then found out we had 283 pistons, so I sent the 307s back, got a set of 283s coming. The cam is going to be a competition cam. I don't remember all the specs off the top of my head. 110 degrees of lobe separation, 499 lift, and I don't remember what the durations were, 260 something. So when it's in there, it should have a little bit of a lope, should sound good. Hopefully it's supposed to perform good between about 1,000 and 3,500, 4,000 RPMs, which will give it a little bit of torque. And hopefully with that 4-barrel, it will feed it enough fuel to make it bark. So hot rodding in the 60s, straight 6, should be a blast. Anyway, that's a little update on the old C10. So hope you guys enjoyed. I'll keep you involved as I go along on the engine build and when I get it stuck back in. To mention, yeah, that's also a 2-speed automatic, 2-speed power glide is what the transmission is, and it's going to stay that unless I put the motor in and that transmission is telling me it's got problems. But I can't see that it does. The fluid that's in it is clean and smells good. And these power glides were pretty robust. I know a lot of roundy circle track racers run these things behind fairly high horsepower inline 6s on the dirt track and on the circle track. They'll take a lot of abuse. They're easy to rebuild. So the Circle guys just love these things. So that's what's going to go back in it or stay in it, is this. Should I find out that it's toasted, I may make a decision to rebuild it, or would really like to put a 700 R4 behind that little 230. I think that'd be a sweet cruising little machine. You can see I've got some wiring harness issues. It looks like a angry squirrel got in there. So I got to do wiring on it and clean up a few things. Like I mentioned in the initial intro video to this thing, what I want is for it to be mechanically sound, and if it looks like a rat rod junker, I don't care. Seems to be kind of what people are wanting nowadays. I probably will attack some of these real bad rough spots. You know, I might do a fender patch in here. Underneath, if you look, the cab supports and fender supports are pretty bad. So to prevent catastrophic failure, I probably do want to replace some of those supports underneath the vehicle. And while I'm doing it, I may tackle these fenders. Patch in a number of different vendors sell patch kits that either come all the way up, or depending on how high your rust is, but mine's looking like it's bad up into here. We'll see. That'll be a wintertime project, and we'll take care of it once it's on the road and has a life of its own and can power itself without being pushed by another vehicle. So anyway, that's a little update on the 65, guys. Just wanted to let you know where we're at with it. We're having fun.